Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. Terraplex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag-grown technology and support from Terraplex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with Terraplex Ag. Visit TerraplexAg.com.
Hello and welcome to Williams and Blum. It is what is today's day? It's the 23rd of June, 2024. My name is Chris Williams. I'll bring Brent Blum in here just momentarily. I want to thank our great sponsor, the presenting sponsor of Williams and Blum. Of course, that is our friends over at Mechdyne. That is spelled Mechdyne, the pride of Marshalltown, Iowa. What a great company. They are a combination of technology companies. They do all kinds of great stuff, and they're always looking for Iowa Staters to hire. I would encourage you, if you're unhappy in your current situation, it don't matter if you're an engineer, marketing, they're hiring desk jobs, IT. They like part-time IT. If you're a student at Iowa State University, some of our friends over at the Ivy College of Business, this be a good opportunity for you. Check them out at mechdyne.com and look what they have available today. Of course, we come to you from the Wild Rose Casino Studios. We are also presented by our friends at Cody Road. Looking forward to August the 16th, I believe. And that will be our roadshow date over at Mississippi River Distilling this year. I am going to confirm that date real quick because I'm bad with dates. Yes, August the 16th will be in LeClaire for that great event. I don't believe tickets are on sale yet, but they will be before too long. And now I bring in Brent Blum, who's had a busy week with the We Will Collective. It is these off seasons, Brent, are not that off anymore, especially in your world. It's where a lot of the fundraising happens, and in my world, it's where like 80% of our advertising sales and planning for the upcoming year. I always say, once July 4th hits, the summer is over for me, and we are almost there. This thing is flying, and I feel like it's football season already. How are you?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there, tired, honestly. We've had a great week, but a long week with all, as you mentioned, coaches are only available for a couple of months throughout the year to do cool stuff, and we're kind of in that prime season. So any time the coaches have, we're trying to put them to use to help out the collective, and we will. And they've been super gracious with their time, but it's just a lot of coordination on the back end to make sure everything goes off. But we've had a great week, had a great fundraiser Wednesday, had the Cyclone football alumni reunion golf tournament on Thursday. And then I played in another charity event on Friday. And then last night was a really cool deal, Chris. Actually, a gentleman that listens to this podcast, his wife bid on a silent auction to have dinner with John Walters, Eric Heft, and me last night, which was cool in its own right that she surprised him. But the really cool part was this gentleman, Brian's dad, had passed away a few years ago, and she invited his dad's best friends that grew up going to games with him to come to the dinner
cool.
as well. And we all surprised him. So
That's awesome.
They're all guys from the Eric Heft era, and it was just a neat way. Again, NIL can be a scary and a crazy thing, but there has been so much good, and this week really proved that. Plus, we had the Brock Purdy camp. Working with Brock a little bit for his camp as well, and man, what a spectacle that was. So it's been a busy week, but gosh, weeks like this make you really appreciate Cyclone Nation in so many ways. Former players, great supporters, current athletes, and everybody that we get to deal with in this crazy world.
I'm going to lead with the Purdy camp, but real quick, I want to tease what's coming up as we're just doing little look backs at some of our favorite games in Iowa State history. In today's show, it'll be our Wiffles Hybrid segment. Not doing really a Big 12 segment, but our Wiffles Hybrid segment this week will be the 2017 upset over Oklahoma in football. I mean, I think the biggest win in Iowa State history. We'll debate that coming up. I do want to start with the Purdy camp. I wasn't able to make it. Rob Gray covered it for us, wrote a great story. I thought really captured the emotion that Brock brought to it. Is that accurate? I mean, I know you were there, but this is not a normal guy. I think we all kind of knew that after a year or two with him, as far as just the dedication he has to giving back to the community. And it's just, like, it's funny. I don't know Brock real well. I know him well enough.
Yeah.
I don't talk to him much anymore because I don't want to be that leech that's bothering him. But I knew him quite well back in the day when we were doing NIL stuff together, and he really doesn't feel like he's changed at all. Like I think that he is just one of the most rock solid humans that we've ever had the pleasure to work with. And reading these quotes and watching some of the videos from yesterday, I had friends who took their kids up there. Carper took his kid. There are a lot of kids. Did your boys? I don't know. I mean, it just was such a massive event, but it felt like a small town thing at the same time. It really, really cool that he came back and did that.
Yeah, there were so many people there. I mean, there were 700 kids, and there was a lot going on. May not been the most perfectly organized event, but again, you cannot plan on that many people. But the cool part was, it struck me two things. Number one, Brock came back for a football alumni golf outing. And it felt just like, 5 years ago, and he was just a guy. He was just a guy with a rest. He played with his offensive linemen. So he played with our guy Colin Newell and Bryce Meeker and Schweiger. And he just felt normal. It felt like 5 years ago. But then the camp, it's like, no, this guy's not normal anymore. This is not your typical Iowa State player coming back. I mean, there were so many people in Purdy jerseys and people that came in that weren't Iowa State fans. They traveled from, all over the Midwest to come to this camp because he's Brock Purdy, San Francisco 49ers quarterback. I think we know him now as he's obviously a Cyclone first and foremost for us, but I think across the nation, he's Brock Purdy, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And that's the interesting part for me is there were so many people who had never been to Ames that were at that camp, and they were kind of marveling at, oh, this is where Brock played college. So it really struck me that this guy, he's just on a different stratosphere with the popularity of the NFL and the Niners and everything else. But it's hard to fathom.
The example I use too, and like my wife and daughters aren't big football fans. Like listen, they're Iowa State fans.
Yep.
They'll root for the Cardinal and Gold no matter what. The NFL, it's always been like, oh, Dad is a Vikings fan, so I guess we'll root for them too. And I might be in a house with full of 49ers fans within the next 2 years. Like I know you feel this vibe too.
Yep.
Like I think your wife is like me. She's probably going to be a purple bleeder forever, no matter what. But I am curious the amount of households across Cyclone Nation that have just completely dropped their allegiance to their NFL team and are 49ers fans because of this guy. And here's the thing though, Brent, so I always tell people, you can be really good.
Yeah.
Taylor Horton Tucker is a really good player in the NBA.
For sure.
But he was only there for a year, and we never really got to know Taylor, right? It's nothing against him. He was a very nice young man when he was there. He didn't do anything wrong.
Yep.
But we didn't get to know him. We were with Brock for 4 years, and he let you in. He smiled a lot. Just a really good guy. This is where this value of these guys not transferring or going pro early, because you build this core specifically with this fan base. And between Niang and I think Naz would have had the same following because of that exact same thing had he stayed in the NBA for longer.
Yep.
But between Niang and Purdy, I mean, what a case study as far as that goes. When you stay the 4 years and you are a good guy throughout those 4 years, and not just a guy. I mean, you're going to see it with Audie Crooks. She's the same way. Ashley Jones was maybe the greatest women's basketball player ever at Iowa State, but she was quiet, right? Everybody's rooting for Ashley, but you didn't ever feel like you really knew too much about her. Audie is going to be this polarizing, not even polarizing, that's the wrong word. She's going to be this charismatic figure that everybody's just going to follow forever. Because of that, man, like it's just a great case study for these athletes to don't be a robot, be yourself, open yourself up, and people will follow you forever.
Well, and even Brock's, he's got a great personality. I wouldn't say he's Niang in that aspect,
No,
but he's very authentic, and he never says, he never says no. I mean, we asked him to do a bunch of stuff for us this week, and it was always absolutely would love to do it, would love to help. And it wasn't, there's a guy that he could have not even shown up for one. I mean, he's spending his off time coming back to Iowa because that's where his wife's family's from, and his whole family came back. So his dad was there, his mom was there, and it's just he's just very genuine, and I think that comes through. And I would say, what the other thing that Brock really resonates with Cyclone fans is the whole being picked in the last pick, and now look at him. I mean, I think us as a fan base, we're always used to being overlooked and second guessed, and you're just from Iowa State. But I think Brock's one of those guys we can look and go, no, look at our guy. Our guy's one of the best guys in the NFL now. Plus, he gives back to the school that he came from. Always appreciative, and man, it was just a fun few days with having Brock around, and he spent some time with the football facility as well. So it wasn't just all camps and PR stuff. He was around, and it was just neat for him. I saw it on the side. I didn't really make it too much of a spectacle, but he and Campbell and Brock's dad spoke for a while at the golf outing. It was just really neat to be around those guys who, they just know him from college. They don't know him as Brock Purdy, San Francisco Niners, potential MVP.
Cool deal. I want to talk about the football reunion next after we thank a couple of our great sponsors who help keep this show coming to you each and every week, twice a week. Of course, here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. You mentioned Colin Newell. Got to shake Colin's hand at the football reunion. I really can't say more about I've told you guys about my basement flooding, about how great of a process it's been with Farm Bureau Financial Services, and Colin's been checking in on me the entire time. I really this was the first big claim I've ever had to make as far as a homeowner goes in 12 years, and the process was just phenomenal. Mark, the adjuster, they did a really good job. I would encourage any of you to see if Colin can save you some money. Plus, you get to sit there and bullshit with one of the all-time great offensive linemen at Iowa State. Colin's just a great guy. Got a great head on his shoulders. Also want to give a shout out to my good friend Jeff Kelderman from Kelderman Manufacturing. My guy Mark Steck running the show down there. Great partner of ours here at Cyclone Fanatic and also over on Iowa Everywhere. Mr. Kelderman is supporting what we do, and we want you to support him. Kelderman.com. They do a lot of suspension work on trucks, work trucks out there, laser cutting. I know that they do a lot of work with Mechdyne right now. They're partnering with their friends at Plaza RV. Love seeing it when a good plan comes together. And of course, we cannot forget our friends at the Ivy College of Business at Iowa State. Was talking to a buddy of mine, buddy of ours, mutual friend Justin Luch, last night at the wedding, and his daughter is enrolling in the Ivy College of Business. And Judd was telling me how blown away he was by the orientation there, and Dean Spalding and everybody at the Ivy College of Business. And we both agreed that if we could go back to college right now, that's the degree that we would absolutely line up for. I thought that was really cool to have that first world experience last night, talking to him about one of our great sponsors.
So I had an Ivy experience as well this week. So Campbell was at this fundraising event we were at, and he said of the football players, this is crazy to me, and just shows the character of the guys that are in this program. I think he said 16 are engineering majors in Iowa State's program, and 40 are college of business majors.
Wow, that's awesome.
So they're not doing basket weaving and applied soccer coaching or something. I mean, these guys, and the GPA this past year was the highest it's ever been. They had, I think he said 90 guys over a 3-point in tough.
Awesome.
So again, it goes to show we're dealing with some really good people and getting a great education clearly through the Ivy College of Business. And those guys, like Colin, are going to be successful far beyond their athletic careers because they're taking advantage of the entire Iowa State experience.
Sorry. Did you hear that?
Nope.
Okay, good. For some reason, my Apple Music came on and started playing some Pac. I just wanted to make sure you guys did.
What'd you get? You get some George Strait? Or?
No, some Pac came on. Okay, so I want to real quick. I had John Haycock on the podcast last week. Our continuing summer series is we're previewing the 2024 college football season, specifically the Cyclones. If you have not heard that, so I have Haycock, Mauser, Campbell, and Rocco all done. They are all up. These are designed for you guys to be able to listen to with summer travel. They are not going to be dated. I know a lot of road trips, 4th of July, vacations coming up. We made this for you all to be able to do that. So go back and listen. I do want to tease what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Have you ever done an interview where you're just pleasantly surprised? I didn't know what I was going to expect from the man who craves violence, Ryan Clanton, the offensive line coach.
Oh, he talked to Clanton?
Brent, it was one of my favorite interviews I've ever done.
Oh, he's a dog.
And I like Coach. He's a good guy. Like, I didn't know how he would open up, and he was phenomenal. Like, I don't want to overhype this thing, but I'm going to overhype this thing. It was one of the best, like most informative pods I think I've ever done on this network. And we've been doing these things for 15 years or so. The amount that I learned about the process that he puts into the offensive line, and not only that, but the nutrition aspect of it and the strength and conditioning and how it's all tied together. I mean, if you are a young athlete out there, if you're a coach, like, this is one of the best interviews we've done. Awesome. I truly believe it. So
that's great.
That'll be this week. And then our guy, Jake Waters, as well, who you and me go way back with when Jake was a quarterback and slinging it all over Western Iowa, winning state championships at St. Albert. Got those two done this week. We're going to continue to plug away at these. But really, shout out to the football program for being as open as they've been this offseason and giving us access to all this great content. They certainly don't have to do that, but I think it really helps fans when they can, hear from these guys the way that we're able to bring it to you. It's really good stuff.
I thought Haycock was awesome. I mean,
yeah. He's the best.
What a dude. His comments on the defense were super interesting, specifically on the edge position, which I thought was a great question by you, and some of the names that you really haven't heard about yet, but I think could be popping this fall. But more than anything, his comments on Mauser as the offensive coordinator were super insightful.
I thought so too.
Yep.
I thought that was the best part of the whole interview is his comments on Mauser.
It gives you insight into there's so much more than just calling plays and why you got to look at several different factors. And his comments on the latest guru or the latest X and O guy, I thought was, wasn't a shot on anybody in particular, but there's no doubt that us in the media, we always look for the next greatest and best thing ever without necessarily looking at how does a guy get along with his players and all these other things.
Yeah.
There's so much more, specifically in this era of college football. If you hate your position coach, you're just going to leave, I mean, that's a big part of it.
You're going to hear some of that with Clanton too, coming up in the offensive line one, less about like disliking the guy before, but more about the process of being able to be successful, like on day one at offensive line, is really hard. And Ryan explains why he thought the line got better as last year went on and why he thinks they're ready to take a pretty good step this year. It's really, I mean, and again, like I try and be very consistent with my analysis of line play, that I don't know much. And I don't think there's two things that most of the audience can sit and watch. Dummies like us. Okay.
Yep.
You can see if the line of scrimmage is moving in the run game, right? You can see if they're getting push, and you can see if they protect the quarterback. What we don't see is if the quarterback's making the right read, and if the running backs are hitting the right holes, if the receiver runs the right, like there's just so much that go into it. And I don't know. I was blown away by Clanton. He told me we could do these pods once a week, and I was like, man, I think you'll get tired of me. I think you'll get tired of me after a while, but he was phenomenal.
Well, and just from what I know, the recruits really like him. He's a really good recruiter. and the current guys really, really like him. And I just think that's where this Iowa State program has to be super successful, is in the coach player relationships, because that's the one way that you can combat the crazy money.
The football reunion was incredible. Really, one, it made me feel old
Yes,
to be out
same.
there, but two, it just made me feel really grateful, and just honestly blessed to be. Man, we've made a lot of great friends in that football program over the years, and to the picture you took of all the quarterbacks,
Yeah.
was iconic. I'd still take Johnny Quinn in a fight over any of those guys. I want him on my team.
John Quinn still is the strongest handshake of anybody I've ever met in my
Oh,
life.
I mean, it breaks your hand.
Yeah.
It damn near breaks the bones in your hand every time John shakes your hand. And it wasn't like a public thing. I saw football put some stuff out there.
Yeah.
Anytime McCarney takes the stage, it's electric. It's life changing when you hear that guy speak. He just motivates the hell out of you. I think that's when Campbell's at his best, when he's speaking to the fraternity, the frat brothers that are former Iowa State football players. And even I was sitting with Ben Lamach at this wedding last night, and talking to Ben. Ben was out there, and I think we need to, Mahoney and Woody are doing a lot with the Rhodes era guys, and it's been great. I've really enjoyed the evolution of their podcast here on our network. But
Agreed.
Seeing all those road guys that are out there that were kids when we were covering them, and now they're I don't know, man. I feel like that football reunion is a hidden gem that you all have going on. I almost wonder if we can make it bigger, where you do a second night where fans can mingle with these guys, and you could charge $50 a pop. I don't know. I'm just thinking, but that was really cool shit on Thursday night. It takes a lot for me to geek out, and I'm geeking out. I'm geeking out. Those are all my heroes. A bunch of those guys are my heroes out there, right? To see my guy Brett Meyer, that's my quarterback. Brett Meyer will always be my quarterback at Iowa State. But Arnaud, who was our first full-time employee at Cyclone Fanatic, if you remember that, freaking awesome, man. Good job on that.
No, I was, and the neat part is the reason those guys came back, obviously for the reunion, but the golf outing in particular, those guys all paid to play, and it all went to We Will. So here's all these guys got nothing. They got nothing, but they still wanted to support in this way the program that they love, and then they literally put their bodies on the line for. And so this is another way they're helping out. But it was really neat. I spent 20 minutes talking to Nick Leaders. Nick played as a true freshman out of Omaha. And I was like, did you realize you played 110 snaps at defensive tackle against Texas Tech? And he's like, yeah.
He's probably still feeling it.
Yeah, he's like, I remember that. But he's like, we didn't have anybody else, so the coach is like, you got to go back in there. I'm like, all right. So, but just great people, and just being around them from all eras. We had guys from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way up to guys that just graduated last year. And it was just really, really neat. And the brotherhood they have still, it's like they picked up right where they left off. And, that's something that's truly, truly special. And why, C-Dub, I'm glad, and I hope we can continue the continuity of guys staying for 4, 5, and 6 years, because when you get this mobility and the ability to leave all the time, it's just harder to make those bonds that last. It's just like you and me when we hang out with our guys that we did the dumb TV show on ISU TV with. But anytime we get together, it's like we're back, in 2006 again. So, but it was a true honor to help put that together. Big props to Mike Green and the Iowa State football letter winners for their teamwork on that one, and Coach Hooger from the football staff did an unbelievable job. And it was fun. I mean, you had Charlie Kohler shotgunning some bush lights at the golf course, and I mean, it was just,
of course,
yeah. And I was like, Charlie, I won't put this on the internet. He's like, I don't care. You can put it on the internet. It doesn't matter to me. So, I mean, just an awesome guy. I mean, all these guys that you grew up and you hope that they're good people, and it really seems like they are. Even Milan Moses was talking to Brock Purdy for a while. I'm like, those are two guys that you would never think of would ever get together, but because of this, they had a
Milan's a
very nice.
character.
Yeah, Milan's great. So I was just, as the old cheesy saying is, my cup was quite full this week from all this stuff.
Yeah, dude, I was too. I came back on Thursday night, and it was like, I had like that was one of the coolest things for me, because it, to see like Sage, who
Yeah.
we've met really through the media stuff. We didn't
Yep.
know him as a player, but like my old roommate Mike Brantner's there,
Mm-hmm.
and then we, Meyer, like
Meyer
guys who
Blythe.
we went to school
Yep.
with and are
Yep.
buddies, and then like heroes like Lane Danielson and
Yep.
and then you're mixing in our new buddies Colin Newell and Woody, who work with us
Yep.
here
Woody
at
was there.
Cyclone
Yep.
Fanatic. Like it's just like this combination of, and I had one former player, a former NFLer, come up to me, and it came full circle because he was like, "Hey, you keep us all together." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Cyclone Fanatic." He's like, "That's the only way we keep in touch with all this stuff now." And I was like, "That's really awesome, man."
Yep.
Like, I appreciate that. And I feel like we have a responsibility. I've talked to you about this, keeping these guys on the record and bringing them back and putting them on the air and treating them like the legends that they are. Because without those guys, Campbell, Pollard's talked about this relay race or whatever,
Yep.
but without those guys in the McCarney era, in the Ben Lamox of the world, who kept growing that foundation during the Rhodes era, we're looking ahead to 24, and it's going to be real exciting. We think Iowa State can be special, but that foundation, that fan base, the stadium didn't get bowled in by itself. Like
Correct.
there were steps that led up to that, and that's what was cool about seeing that on Thursday and all these guys coming together, because it was all these different eras that did it. Even the ones who played for McCarney and didn't necessarily have the success. Well,
Yep.
it had to start somewhere, right? I mean, you were one of the worst programs in the entire country for a long time, and somebody had to buy into Mac's vision at the beginning.
Yeah.
And we met guys there who did that,
Like
that
my
maybe
guy,
didn't.
Bill Marsaw, who was the first
Yeah, I
guy
met
that.
Bill.
Yep.
Bill came up and said hi.
Yep.
He's great. He was the first recruit, right?
He was the first guy. He was the first guy who had an offer from Iowa, an offer from Iowa State, and it shocked the state that he would pick to go to Iowa State because he was a high end guy, and it really kind of flipped the momentum. So Bill Marsaw was there, but I thought the other neat part in those settings is you get the current guys there too, like Jalen Knoll was hanging around and introducing himself to all these guys, and that's really neat. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, Jalen's an awesome dude, but he wanted to be there to meet some guys that paved the way for his success now. But more than anything, I love the fact that when McCarney's there, Campbell just says, "Hey, this is your show, buddy."
Yeah.
Like everybody knows Mac's the guy, and even though Matt Campbell's the head coach, he knows, even in a room with Matt and Mac, Mac's the guy that gets the crowd going. And man, Mac was electric. I wish we could tape that speech and play it over and over again.
And I was thinking about that. Like, what can we do to honor Mac even more? Not necessarily at Iowa State, but even us. Like, get him on once a month and just let him, I don't know. Because he's so inspirational. Yep. Like, I think he can help people in their daily lives. Like, how can we, honestly, like, every time I talk to the guy, I'm motivated. Like, I'm ready to be a better dad. Like when I talk to Mac, it's such a crazy dynamic. I love him. I can't say enough good things about him.
Well, it's just neat to see, our guy Ryan Gerke was there, and Ryan's been battling some health stuff, and obviously, Jack
he looked
Whitwer
pretty good.
Yeah, he did. Jack Whitwer was on everybody's mind. That was there as well, and it's just those are the things that you realize that that brotherhood, that those collegiality goes beyond any of this other stuff, and it was just really neat. And so all that being said, the fan base is a big part of this too, because the experience you guys provide by coming to games, by being so passionate, by following all these guys, it makes them want to continue to be involved too. And so it's just not about them, it's about this whole thing. And so I agree. I mean, I'm going to work on, for both not only basketball and football, but finding more ways to get not only the current players with the former players, but then also get the fans involved as well, because these guys do feel it, and they loved it here, and that's the reason they love coming back.
All right, Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network, Williams and Blum Sunday. We are recording this in the morning of June 23rd because Blum has the big rivalry softball game tonight.
That's right. That's right. We got we got Make-A-Wish, benefiting Make-A-Wish, the softball game. I told the Iowa State football guys, so we lost last year to Iowa.
Can't lose this year.
And what happened during the game? Iowa won the game. So
yeah,
we got. I think Ben Bramer is going to change the game a little bit though. Ben's got big time power. I'm predicting Ben Bramer goes yard today, and then Audie's our team captain. So I encourage people, if you're listening to this prior to 5 o'clock on Sunday, get out to Southeast Polk. It's a great time, and we're going to raise $200,000 for Make-A-Wish right here in Iowa.
Awesome, good job.
And one other thing I want to note, Chris, on the scheduling front, another
Yes.
opportunity for people to meet some of the great Cyclones. On Saturday, June 29th, we are going to have the We Will Collective Day at the Iowa Cubs game.
Cool.
So Audie's going to be there. Taman's going to be there. Who else do we got there? We got Kelsey Jones is going to be there. Addie Brown's going to be there. Abu Sama's going to be there. Jamison Patton. And so all of those guys are going to be signing autographs, taking pictures. Going to have specials on Ames Lager throughout the ballpark. We're going to have some Iowa State vodka there as well for some specialty drinks. But if you could, go to the We Will Collective website, buy your tickets through us, because then we get $6 per ticket. We've sold 220 tickets so far through our link. I would love to get that closer to 1,000, and that would really help the collective out. But then while you're there, there's going to be some auctions and things of some really cool Iowa State stuff and some cool Chicago Cubs and Iowa Cubs stuff as well that will benefit the collective. So
awesome. Again,
Saturday, June 29th, would love to see you out for the game. The Iowa Cubs, I think they're playing St. Paul, but you can see Taman Lipsy throw out a first pitch. I'm going to guess it's going to be pretty accurate.
Yeah. Did he play baseball?
I don't know that, but he's an athlete. So
yeah, he'll be ready.
Yeah, he'll be ready to go.
Last advertiser we want to thank today is our buddy Andrew Chaplin. Tell us about our buddy Andrew Chaplin, Bloomy.
Well, he's right there in Ames. He'll represent your realty needs, and feel free and get a hold of Andrew. And again, anytime you need a realtor, your realtor better be accessible.
Yeah, don't be an idiot.
Yeah,
he's very accessible. And, he's a great guy.
He's a great guy, and go to chat. I'm going to get the exact website, but he's with Hunsinger Realty up there in Ames, but he can go all over the place. So andrew.hunsingerrealty.com, and he can be contacted as well at 515-460-6454. And on that note, thinking of our friends in Northwest Iowa and Minnesota and South Dakota with all of the flooding, and my goodness, it's crazy up there. So
it's
hope
been
you all
a
are hanging in there.
Summer and spring.
Yeah, it's just some of the pictures from Spencer are just hard to believe, and even the Okoboji.
Did you see the racetrack up there?
No.
So one of the biggest sprint car races of the year is up in Houston, South Dakota this week.
Yeah.
And they raced on Wednesday night because it's a 4-night race. Okay, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you have people from all over the country bringing their campers to this thing. 65 of the best cars in the world at what they do. They raced on Wednesday, rained out Thursday, and then all of a sudden, whatever happened, like the dam broke or whatever.
Yeah.
And hundreds of campers and stuff are just floating.
Oh, no.
Outside of that track. The track is completely underwater. And it was a really scary image. They had like drone footage from it. And are your in-laws doing okay? Everybody okay up there?
They're doing, yes, they're up in Armstrong. They're fine, but I've got relatives in Fairmont, Minnesota that are having some basement flooding problems, and full well about that. And then particularly thinking about our friends in Spencer, because
it's bad.
That main street is completely underwater, and I'm going to guess, people in Spencer did not think about flood insurance. I don't know. I mean, some of those people, it probably won't get the national attention, but their lives changed literally over the last couple of days. And thinking about you all, I know there's a lot of great Cyclones up there.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, way to put that in there. Two quick notes, or one quick note here. TJ Otzelberger availability over the week. You can go and watch that entire video on the Cyclone Fanatic YouTube page. It's also on our front page at cyclonefanatic.com. Rob Gray wrote a story worth your time on Milan Momcilovic. put on 15 pounds already this offseason. I thought that was notable. There was a
Yes.
lot of, really good offseason stuff. Go and listen to Otts and watch that. The Momcilovic putting on 15 pounds, man, that's one hell of a note here on June 23rd.
Well, and then the other thing that I think is notable that he's been working nonstop on his game, and he said it in that article, which is great. Again, Rob Gray continues to be the best sports writer in the state, in my opinion.
I agree.
But noted that working on his quickness on defense, but also his ability to drive the ball. And if that guy can put it on the floor and get to the basket and make plays at the rim, look out. Because you can't, if you have to prepare for him to go around you, you can't stop him. Because right now he's a very skilled guy, but it's 3-point shots and fadeaways. He didn't really go downhill much. If he get to the rim, get fouled, get to the free throw line, he's a great free throw shooter. You're talking about a guy that could be a 20-point-a-game guy. I really believe that by the time his career's done. And it's going to be balanced this year. I talked to Keyshawn Gilbert a little bit on Wednesday at one of our events. He's bigger. I mean, he's notably bigger, and he knows that it's actually been good. So Taman's still been pretty limited with his shoulder situation. So Keyshawn's been getting a lot of the play at the one, and I think in the long run that'll be good. The other thing that is notable, and I think it's going to be all right, but Joshua Jefferson, who awesome dude, great size on him. Talked to him for the first time this week, but he's been out. And he's still dealing with that knee injury. I think it's a meniscus that he suffered at St. Mary's. Should be ready to go, I think, by August 1. But he hasn't played yet. But I'm telling you, C-Hub, between Chatfield, Jackson, and Jefferson, there's some big dudes. It's not just not only is Momcilovic bigger, Iowa State is noticeably bigger on the front line. And obviously Ward and Jones were big dudes. These guys are just huge. They're monster guys. And I think somebody was talking about that Jackson sets a really good screen, and I believe it. He might be the single largest individual I've ever seen at Iowa State.
Wow. I haven't seen him in person yet.
He's 6'11", and he's listed at 290.
My only question on those guys, because I think that they're going to do just fine. I think the one question I have about Iowa State basketball going into this year, get Lipsy healthy, obviously.
Yes.
But it's just the day-to-day physicality of the Big 12 for the posts.
Yep.
Because it's a big jump from St. Mary's and Charlotte. Like, it just is. And it's not that they're not capable of it. They have the bodies for it. That can you handle that? And that's basically what the entire Otzelberger offseason is built around, is developing that toughness. And the other point I would make, it's about Momcilovic putting on 15 pounds, and you said Gilbert looks bigger.
Yep.
Is when these guys transfer up, they're getting better nutrition and strength and conditioning at this level compared to the other one too. So it's what I kind of like about how Iowa State's doing the transfer thing right now. When you get these mid-major guys, they're not tapped out because they haven't had the resources of a high major to do that.
Yep.
So you should see a jump from, Jackson, and, I'd like to get Jefferson out there, but he still hasn't been cleared according to Otzelberger. You noted that. But that's just another point that I like. Yeah, Keyshawn does have some weight to put on because he hasn't had as much time developing like that.
Completely agree. That's it.
Curtis Jones will be the same way.
Curtis is bigger too. Yeah, I mean, that's well said. And Taman came in as a pretty, put together guy already. That's why he handled his freshman year already. But that's a really good point. Like, even there is an advantage there because the nutrition and the weight stuff has gotten so sophisticated that these guys all get better with Pete Link and crew. And, if you can reach a different level of athleticism, and it sounds like Milan's getting there, even Nate Heisey coming from UNI, pretty physical guy. But he's bigger than you think. I mean, that guy's 6'5", 215, 220. He's going to play. I keep telling.
I still think he's the under.
I'm going to keep banging this drum for whoever will listen. Nate Heisey is the most undervalued transfer that Iowa State got. He's going to play, and he's going to play a lot, and he's going to be super helpful. He just does everything really, really well, but doesn't try to do too much. I just think Iowa State fans are going to like that guy a lot.
All right, our look back game for today, one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest win in the history of Iowa State athletics. I think I could make the argument.
I
2017
It's up
upset
there.
over Oklahoma.
Yep.
I mean, listen, I know like we could go out and pick out NCAA tournament games, and I'm just saying, like, you talk about changing an entire program in the biggest sport that, I mean, we all liked where the Campbell thing was going, but the way they do it, I remember, I believe it was a Chris Stapleton concert in Des Moines the night before.
Okay.
And I mean, you have to take yourself back to the Jacob Park, the Texas game.
Texas game the week before, yeah.
Yep. Like, and all that stuff going on. There's all these rumors just everywhere. And I'm at this Chris Stapleton concert. I'm at Wells Fargo Arena. I'm sitting up at the fort. It's one of these cyclone moments that I remember like it was yesterday. And I'm working, and that this Kyle Kempt is going to start this football game. And who?
Right.
I mean, I knew who he was, but like what?
Because we thought it might be,
Zeb Noland.
Zeb Noland, who was the backup, but they did not want to throw him to the Wolves because Iowa State was a 31-point underdog.
And, you go into this game basically, it feels like you have no chance. Now, keep in mind, this is also game 2 of the defensive switch to the dime stack. They debuted that on that Thursday against Texas and were very successful defensively. So you have a pretty, that's interesting. You got that going on. But then this quarterback thing happens, and Kempt goes out there. By the way, I talked to Kyle Kempt for a long time.
Yeah.
What a blessing to have him around this program. I mean, what a
married
great
this week. Congrats, Kyle.
Congratulations to the future Kempt couple.
Yes.
Blum, you were there.
Yes.
You were on the plane. You were smack dab in the middle of that. What do you remember pregame going into that game?
Well, so we started hearing things that say Wednesday, Thursday, like, hey, something's going on with Jacob Park. Like, we didn't know everything. And then I'm on the team plane, and Jacob Park doesn't get on the plane, so I'm going, oh, no. I mean, you guys, at this point, Jacob Park is still highly thought of. And because you didn't know anything about Iowa State's backups. And Iowa State had just had a really disappointing loss to Texas. Defense played well, but it's like there were still some questions, I would say, C-Dub, of like, hey, Matt's only in year 2. That was a big game against Texas. You had lost to Iowa already that year. It's like, I know we're getting better players, but we're ever going to get over the hump type of thing. Well, you're on the plane. Jacob Park doesn't get on the plane. And I remember we're on the bus. We stayed at the Embassy Suites there in Norman. And right off the bus is your pals, Randy Peterson and Tommy Birch.
Of course.
Who were stalking out the bus to see if Jacob Park got off the bus.
My guys, I love it.
Right.
Grinding.
So at that point, Matt's like, yeah, you guys are right. Jacob's not here. And that's when we're gonna start Kyle Kempt. But what nobody really knew, and then we heard some murmurs that Lanning was going to get some snaps as well. And so that he played both ways that day. I mean, he had an incredible game defensively. It was part of the last play of the game. But then that game really changed. I mean, Oklahoma right away kind of took it to Iowa State. It was on the edge of getting out of hand quickly. I mean,
I bet the live line in that game, looking back, I bet it got over 40 after the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, because it was 14-3. I mean, it was to the point where like, okay, here we go. I mean, I remember thinking the night before, I'm like, I don't think Iowa State's going to keep this with the 35. Like I'm the biggest.
Kempt was a mess that first possession. You're like, oh no,
he couldn't even snap the ball or receive a snap. And then David Montgomery had a couple unbelievable, just all David runs is what we got used to with him at Iowa State. Then Iowa State started hitting those bubble screens. Had one to Murdoch, one to Trevor Ryan, and Kempt started getting comfortable. And then obviously the biggest play was that, there's a big turnover by Oklahoma within the 5-yard line. That was a huge, huge play. But then the catch that we'll always remember with Alan Lazard in the corner of the end zone, and Kempt put it right on him. For Kyle Kempt to do that in that spot is still incredible. We talked about the Steele Jantz Iowa game. I'm putting Kempt right up there. Jared Barnett against Oklahoma State, literally out of nowhere, and the guy has an unbelievable game, and it didn't seem like he missed a throw in the second half. But as importantly, the Iowa State defense was so good in that second half. Even though Oklahoma scored 31, Oklahoma was putting up 50 on everybody at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt like a miracle to hold them to 35 or less. And they needed every single stop. And then to have it end with Baker Mayfield on a fourth down, scrambling around, trying to make a play and landing, forcing an incomplete pass, it was poetic. And it was literally surreal. It was one of the more surreal. I don't remember that flight home much because it was just like you were just overjoyed and ecstatic. I do remember that's when they posted the photo on Twitter of landing in the cockpit, and it said Joel Landing flew us home as well. It was just, and then I beeline straight to your house, and
we
had
watched
an
it again.
Yep. I think Billy Finley came over.
Billy Finley in like a 9-month and 3-week pregnant Lindsay. Oh, it was.
I'm not sure why we did that, but we just felt like we had to.
We couldn't stop. We didn't want to let the night end.
Yeah, it was incredible, and it really took so many players on that team, and then that started. The reason why that wasn't just a Marv Seiler against Nebraska type game is Iowa State. That was the springboard onto
they backed
that
up.
run. Yeah, and then they backed it up, and they backed it up for 6 years since then.
You beat TCU. I thought that the Texas Tech game the next week was probably the bigger win, only in the sense that because of what we said. Like when you went and beat Texas Tech like that, and you're like, oh shit, this is, this is they're for real.
Yep,
the TCU game was one of my favorite games because it was just an awesome day. And so like what I like to do with these is I like to go back and look at the box scores because
what do you got?
We remember like the surface level stuff. So Kyle Kempt throws for 343 yards and 3 touchdowns in his debut.
Jeez.
3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. This was the stat that surprised me the most. I didn't remember Trevor Ryan having 4 catches for 99 yards. He led Iowa State in receiving that day with a touchdown. Because I just think like in my head, like, oh, Lazard caught all these passes. No, it was Trevor Ryan who was the leading receiver. Hakeem Butler had 1 catch for 54 yards.
Yeah, it was the swing passes. So both Murdoch and Trevor scored on those little It was like the first time in my life that a swing pass worked to an Iowa State receiver. I mean, how many years is like, why are we doing this?
Oh yeah,
and it's like, oh my gosh, there
goes sideways Courtney Messingham offense or whatever.
Yes. And then the cool part is to see where all these guys have gone since that game. Kyle's obviously on staff now, and Alan Lazard's having success in the NFL. Hakeem Butler now, with his story and what he's gone through really hard
in the NFL.
Yep. And then even Trevor Ryan's now a strength coach for Iowa State and part of the program still. So it's just fun to see, how that was a real, because at that point you weren't sure. You still were not sure if Campbell could do it because nobody had really been able to do it to that degree. But what was different between what he did and then what, McCarney, even the previous coaches, even in Paul Rhodes, was he sustained it for 4 weeks after that. Even when Paul beat Oklahoma State, then the next time you play, you go and lose to K-State in a good game, but then you lost the bowl game to Rutgers, and you just felt like you lost some of that juice, where Iowa State kept it up. And then, rolls all the way to that year to what were they? They got up to 16th or so, 15th in the AP poll, beat a ranked Memphis team in the bowl game, and 17 changed the course of Iowa State football. If you lose that game, maybe you don't beat Tech a couple weeks later, maybe you don't beat TCU, and you probably don't make a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens? Then recruiting isn't as good. Brock Purdy doesn't believe in you, doesn't come the next year. It's just so many dominoes that happened because of that one day in Norman.
That's the most important football season ever.
I think it is. I really do. I think 2017 is arguably, I think you're dead on, most important football season in my lifetime. And 2000 was great. I mean, winning a bowl game that was huge, and it set the expectations of this is possible at Iowa State. I'm going to put 2000 right there with it. But coming off the end of the Rhodes regime, and as rocky as the Campbell thing started, Iowa State needed a game like that to say, "Hey, we can do this," and to do it on the road was even more impressive. It was just a special day, and the best part is that wasn't just the end of it; it was the start of the whole Campbell era, and here we are today.
My lasting memory of that game was I could be pretty rough to watch a game with, I'm told. I just I'm just negative, and it's just how I'm wired. So my dad was here because this is when I used to have to go into the station to do Cyclone Reaction. Now I can do it remotely.
Yep.
But my wife was working, and I needed help with what would have just been Cameron. Elise wasn't around yet, and my folks are up here, and we are prepared for the worst in this game, right? And Dad and I are downstairs watching the game on the big screen, and he got so pissed at me he left and went upstairs to watch the game on his own because he couldn't handle it with me. I'm looking at ESPN right now. It gives you like the win probabilities. Oklahoma still had a 95% chance to win that game with like 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. So this wasn't like, this.
Just look at it, it was 24-10.
Yeah. Okay. So Dad goes upstairs, and I remember at the end, Mayfield gets the ball back, and Oklahoma can go down to tie it, right? Like that. I think that was the setup. And it's one of those situations where the upstairs TV was a little faster than the bottom TV, and I just hear my dad go, "All right," and that was how I knew that Iowa State, finished that one off.
Oh,
finished that one off.
31-point underdogs. Think about that. And I thought it would be way worse because the Vegas did not really account for the Jacob Park thing until it was too late.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Kempton, but that was one of the first great professor games too.
No doubt.
Just and Mayfield still throws for 306 yards and 2 touchdowns, but Iowa State shows up and they were confused by the dime stack, and that was a good defensive game. If you consider what Oklahoma was doing at that tenure of its program, offensively, holding them to 31 points was a hell of a task.
Look at the receivers for Oklahoma. It is an embarrassment of riches.
Oh, CeeDee Lamb,
Mark Andrews, the best tight end in the NFL potentially now. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. I mean, it's just like Trey Sermon, who's still in the NFL as a running back.
Unbelievable.
And Iowa State had Joel Lanning, the former quarterback, lead them in tackles against those guys. Hey, and real shout out, this does not get talked about enough, but I got to do it. Garrett Owens in that game was rock solid, the kicker for Iowa State. He went 3 for 3 on field goals, 3 for 3 in extra points. He was the Oregon State transfer.
Why do I not remember Garrett Owens?
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like people, Garrett Owens was great that year. He had a great year.
That is a forgotten Cyclone right there. And they down the stretch they played a lot of low scoring games where they needed to.
Garrett Owens. We had such bad luck with kickers, but Garrett Owens was awesome in that game. Like made everything. And I think Oklahoma's great kicker missed one in that game. Seibert, yeah, he did. He missed one, and he was the Lou Groza candidate, and it was Garrett Owens who outkicked Seibert.
Crazy.
And even better, there were a couple reviews in that game that went Iowa State's way.
Everything was going your way that
Everything
game,
was going
baby.
the Clones' way that day.
Fun stuff.
And then we had a few too many Cody Rhodes before there were such a thing, I'm pretty sure, that night.
My God. That was a night. That was a hell of a night. Well, I appreciate all you guys paying attention and sending us your requests. We'll keep taking these and we'll keep looking back. We will do another one on Wednesday's show. If you have any, keep throwing them our way. That was an unforgettable day. The 38-31 win over Oklahoma in 2017.
All right. The one real quick thing, the neat thing that you can do because I'm a nerd, I'll do occasionally. You can search your Twitter, your tweets from, a specific date range. And it's fun to go look back at what you were tweeting during the game. Because it was kind of like it was at first it was like, okay, here we go. Let's get weird. Yeah. And then it's like, oh no, this is horrible. All of a sudden it's like, wait a second. Iowa State's playing the game.
Yeah.
And then it was, at the end, it's just like, oh my God, like you couldn't even tweet because you were just floating. You didn't even realize. Just surreal day.
Incredible.
So, good times.
Well, I know you got a lot to get to. Thank you. Keep on keeping on, brother.
Thank
We'll
you,
talk
guys.
to you
And
on
seriously,
Wednesday.
I would love to see you all at the Iowa Cubs game on Saturday. Look at the We Will Collective website, buy a ticket, and it'll be worth your time to get all the autographs from all the studs.
He is Brent Blum. My name is Chris Williams. We appreciate you guys listening here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.